when we spoke a week or so ago, and I asked you about your marketing strategy, you used the phrase leading with value. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I think, marketers in general talk a lot about target audiences, personas, finding connections and building relationships where they are. And when we think about leading with value, what we're really doing is we're building some sort of empathy and emotional relationship with those personas and putting ourselves in their shoes and being like, what would make me feel like this was a valuable exchange? And how can I build that relationship, leaning really heavily into this idea of value and the interdependence of value between authenticity and the outcome of trust? Because the more we can build trust and value and authenticity as those sort of, us marketers love a good Venn diagram, right? Like when all three of those come together, it's kind of like this magic soup that happens where brands are able to, ask questions of each other before it becomes a paid relationship. And, I've had many conversations with folks that have come in and read our content, and they've been like, I feel like I should pay you for this because it's so valuable and it's helped me become better at my job. And you give it away for free. Why do you do that? And I'm like, because you always think of me when you think of retrospectives. You always think, I have a question about how to do this thing. Where can I go learn? And your number one resource is me. Is that true? And they're like, yeah, it's true.
That's a nice thing to hear, right? As a marketer, it really makes you feel like, oh, I'm doing something right. So yeah. So, and like what you're talking about is giving away content just for free without gating it, right? To use that kind of jargony term, that you can make content available in exchange for an email address or some other information, or you can just put it out there and give it away. Now, clearly you're talking about just putting it out there, giving it away, at least most of the time, right? And so, and so talk more about like, what's the value in doing that? And I ask because I think the reasons for gating are kind of obvious. You get something in exchange. You build up your email list that way. It's common practice, nothing wrong with it. And I think most people are like, okay, if you really want it, you'll give your email address. But why give it away? Like, are you not kind of missing out on an opportunity to get email addresses?
The idea of missing out on that FOMO of email addresses is something that I talk about all the time with my team and even with some of the contractors that we have supporting us, where they're like, you need to this content. You need to gate this content. Sorry, excuse me. So gate the content because you are missing an opportunity for a currency exchange in the form of an email address, which is really what we're trying to do, right? Like at that point, your email address as a lead is our currency we're dealing in. And I challenge that assumption and say, let's push that idea back closer to the actual point of currency in the form of dollars exchange, where the email address as a currency exchange happens when you go into the product, not when you come into the content I'm using to build value, trust, buy-in, belief, all of those outcomes and desirable sort of interactions between a brand and a prospect. And, the more that people interact with our content, the better it is for us because we're constantly going to be back of mind. We're constantly, when you think of X, you're going to think of Y brand. And I think that is kind of the utopia that all of us as marketers are striving towards is how can we build that when I think adhesive Band-Aid, I think, or bandage, I think Band-Aid, right? Like that is amazing. And that is really the outcome we're striving for. Now, of course, gating has a time and a place. Absolutely. If content is your currency and is your product, you have to gate your content because people have to pay you for it. That is not the case in most like B2B SaaS toolings. You're not really paying for content. You might be giving away courses, of which, of course, I always say, like, if you're educating people, one of the best ways for people to believe that you're going to educate them is to educate them for free. And it's that sort of like, tug and pull between what's for free and what's not for free. It's just the whole idea of like when someone's about to release a book and they're marketing the book, they give away a chapter for free because then you're hooked. And you've gotten the free sort of like taste of what you're going to get when you pay for it. But we do have some gates. There are some gates that we have. I can't have a webinar without asking for people's email addresses and then send them the information to join it. If you're going to download an ebook, there's going to be some sort of action that I'm going to probably ask you to take. And the gate does not always have to be an email address. It can be hey, let me ask you a question. Are you reading this content because you want to learn this, this, or this? And then we can use that data point to help us understand what value is maybe missing that we don't have. And so we can actually ask for additional data points to help guide our content strategy as a gate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when we go back to this idea of value, which is where we kind of start this whole conversation, there's a gate associated with perceived value, and there's a gate associated with realized value. And making sure that the gate is at the point of realized value is extremely important, because as soon as you put that gate up and it's not at realized value, people are going to bounce out and they're not going to give you anything. And you also haven't had the opportunity to build that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. A lot of good stuff there. So first, I love that the idea of not giving up on getting anything, but it doesn't have to be an email, right?
Exactly.
Because I think that's really, just thinking from my own experience, when I am asked for emails, just my gut reaction is, if I absolutely have to, and it's the only way I'm going to get it, and I really want this piece of content, okay, but there's a lot of hesitancy there, and I'd rather not. But if someone if it's a simple drop down, why, what is your interest in this? Sure, I don't feel like I'm giving up anything of great value on my part. It's just like, oh, okay, I get it. They just want to get some sense. That's easy enough. Here you go. And then I grab the thing. Like, that's a big difference. And a good middle ground, I think, as a way to get valuable information, the data from the people, without asking for too much, or the kind of thing that's going to maybe devalue or break that trust a little bit.
Yeah. And, I think that one of the unfortunate misgivings I think a lot of marketers approach interactions with is that the only outcome we should be focused on is getting the one thing we need, which is either buy now or here's my email address.
Yeah. And
there's so much more when we think about what the funnel can look like if we just make it a little bit bigger. We make that funnel bigger, which I know is going to make some marketers go, oh God, no, my funnel's already huge. But if you make it a little bit bigger and you think about ways you can get additional value while delivering value, you can really experiment with that. And, a bigger funnel is not always a bad thing. When you make your funnel bigger, you have additional opportunities so that then, your marketing qualified leads are extremely valuable and have, a high conversion to customer ratio, and your CAC goes down and you're super excited about all the other metrics that are just pointing and going green and everyone's happy. So yes, I think that, everyone can kind of, as a marketer, can kind of think about, what if I were to ask questions to my tribe? What if I were to engage them and really use feedback to drive my marketing strategy the way we use feedback to drive a product roadmap?